1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. We have an incredible show for you today, and we are going to have so much fun. It is episode 94 of Reactions, so mark that down. We are doing our countdown to 100. We'll have our centennial celebration eventually. We're getting there, but today is exciting. My name is Aaron Harris. I'm one of your hosts here, and joining me is the Qui-Gon to my Obi-Wan, the David Modders. David, brother, how you doing?
Really good. Of course, we're recording this on the day that all the Tales of the Jedi episodes dropped, and so we're excited to record this. So I'm doing especially good, ready to react. There's way too much to talk about and react to, but we're going to do our best, and I look forward to recording with you, buddy. Plus, I have a psychology corner for our listeners.
Excellent, Smithers. Excellent. So we got David's right. We're recording this October 26th, which was a incredible day to be a Star Wars fans. Not only did we get the next installment of the Andor series, which was an incredible episode, which we'll be reviewing at some point in time soon. But we also got the full drop release of the Tales of the Jedi animated shorts. If you were not familiar with these, where have you been? This is a 6-episode short series of anywhere from 15 to 17 minutes long. I think the shortest one was 12, actually. 12 minutes, and the longest was 16. I don't know. But these were animated shorts following the stories around 2 prequel era characters. You had 3 episodes about everybody's favorite padawan, Ahsoka Tano, and you had 3 about the Dark Lord, Count Dooku. And of course, other characters make appearances through the story. So these were absolutely incredible. I can't say enough about how good these were. And you'll hear us gush more as we go into this. And we've tried to figure out the best way to review these. And I announced it earlier online today on our social media. But David and I decided we were going to split this into 2 reviews. There were 3 episodes about Dooku, 3 episodes about Ahsoka. We'll split them up. We'll talk about Dooku, and then we'll another episode we'll talk about Ahsoka. This episode is going to be all about the Dooku episodes of Tales of the Jedi. And fabulous episodes they were. So let's take a look here at these. We had 3 episodes that this was a part of, and the way these were released was for the Dooku. We had episode 2, which was Justice, directed by Saul Ruiz, and written by Dave Filoni for president. We also have episode 3, Choices, directed by Charles Murray and Saul Ruiz, written by Charles Murray and Elon Murray. And then episode 4, The Sith Lord, directed by Saul Ruiz and written by Dave Filoni for president.
I like how you're slipping that in there, buddy.
Well, I was going to say Dave Filoni for Intergalactic Emperor, but I didn't think that would go over well. But thinking we're talking about Star Wars and Emperors really get a bad rap.
That's true. This is true.
So I figured President would be better. So Dave Filoni for President. Anyway, what was great about these episodes? I mean, we had 3. The first one that we got was Justice. We see a young Dooku with his padawan Qui-Gon Jinn being dispatched to resolve a hostage situation on a distant planet. Episode 3's Choices. We see an older Dooku partnered up with Jedi Master, not yet on the council, Mace Windu, as they go investigate the death of another Jedi Master. And then last but not least, we have the Sith Lord, in which we actually see the turn of Count Dooku into Darth Tyrannus.
Yes.
And these were awesome. So let's get going here. David, let's start with you. Tell us your initial reactions when you watched these episodes.
Yeah, I'm going to try not to sound like I'm using too much hyperbole, but I was absolutely just blown away with all 6 of these episodes. We're going to focus on the 3 Dooku episodes, and I just, you and I talked about it just before we started recording, that I just really want to say that I appreciated getting this backstory for Dooku in animated form. Because it's so good to see it, to hear Corey Burton's voice again as Dooku, and the way he changed it up to make it like a younger Dooku. Now there is the book Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray, which was excellent, and that gave backstory to Dooku and Qui-Gon as well as Master and Apprentice, of course. But seeing them as Master and Apprentice was just even better. I'm blown away. It's just outstanding. And again, I would just throw this in that just prior to Aaron hitting record, I thought that Aaron made a really great point, and I'm going to steal it from him right now, which is Ahsoka's was more emotional. Those 3 episodes, more emotional weight. This had more character development of Dooku, but we had more room for it, and Filoni just delivered. Yes, Filoni for president.
Absolutely, Filoni for president. And don't mind you stealing. That's not the one I thought you were going to steal, but that's a good one to steal too. I honestly thought you were going to steal the statement I made before, and I even posted this on my Twitter this morning after watching these episodes, that these Tales of the Jedi confirmed what a lot of people already knew, which is the superiority of Star Wars animation over Star Wars live action. Because in 6 15-minute episodes, I had more story, more emotional impact, and more engagement than I did in anything else that has been done live action. I would even say more than the movies. The original trilogy, then the prequels, definitely the sequels, which I like the sequels, don't get me wrong. But none of the movies had this type of emotional impact. Now, I think a lot of that may have had to do with the 7 seasons we got of the Clone Wars, where we had more time to develop and engage and have these characters as part of our everyday life. But to me, these just hit me a lot harder than any of the movies did.
Yeah.
But as for my initial reactions on these Dooku episodes, I never in all the years we've watched Dooku, whether it was in the prequels or in the Clone Wars, I never thought I'd feel sympathy for that guy.
Right.
And seeing his story in these 3 episodes, and they filled in so much backstory as to his relationship with Qui-Gon, his relationship with the Council, his relationship with the Jedi in general, and with how he views the Council, how he views the Jedi, how he views the Republic. It fills in so much gap, so much stuff we did not know. Even, I mean, granted, we've had books about Dooku. We've had the live action drama. Was it Dooku Lost?
Yeah, the audio.
Audio, yeah, the audio drama Dooku Lost. We've had some backstory in Master and Apprentice. We've had some stuff come out about him, but this filled in so much more and tied the story in such ways that I couldn't help but look at Dooku the same way. Honestly, I look at Anakin as his fallen Vader.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to do the right thing. He's doing the wrong thing for all the right reasons, essentially. Right. And he's trying to he's using the dark side and doing stuff he knows he shouldn't do because he thinks it will lead to the right ending, and it doesn't for him. And we see this pull through the dark side, and it starts right off there in the first episode, Justice, where him and Qui-Gon, padawan Qui-Gon Jinn, which I gotta say they did a really good job on the animated Qui-Gon, young Qui-Gon, because I'm sorry, that looked just like Liam Neeson from Rob Roy.
Yeah, at a young age.
From the movie Rob Roy, which is an early movie he did. So it looked great. But he arrives on this planet to rescue a senator's son who had been kidnapped. Come to find out, the people that kidnapped him were actually the entire village that was where he was being held. The entire village was in on the kidnapping because basically the senator was basically robbing them dry, leaving them starving, and living large on their penny. Sounds like a normal politician to me, but honestly, but they discover this, and all of a sudden, while they're there to rescue him and they're getting the story, next thing we know, the senator arrives with a squad of troops, and a battle ensues, and Qui-Gon and Dooku have to take sides, and they side with the kidnappers, ironically, because they realize that the senator has not been doing everything he should. Now, what I found, of course, battles ensue. People get injured, and they fall, and at one point, while the senator's got his pistol drawn, he's just firing away. You see Dooku snap, and next thing you know, you see that hand go up, and the senator choking. Literally, he tapped into the dark side at that moment.
Yeah,
and just powerful piece. And one thing that Qui-Gon says is, we hear Anakin say, or not Anakin, Obi-Wan say it in the episode, is episode 3. Yeah, episode 3, that of course, his allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. They're there to serve the Senate. And that's statements made in this episode. And Qui-Gon says, no, we're here to serve the people, not the Senate. Mm-hmm. And he used that as his justification to engage in this fight. So let's discuss this a little bit, because we see his first, it's probably not his first taste of the dark side, but we see a step toward the dark side in this episode. And we see it even continued in the next episode, and ultimately culminating in the final episode. But his path to the dark side, as we see as we watch these episodes, is paved with good intentions. What not now that we know this and seeing this, tell me, David, how you feel about him going down the wrong path for essentially the right reasons.
Yeah, that's, this is why you and I have this in our notes. We put Dooku's path to the dark side as paved with good intentions, instead of, the what is it, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. And it is interesting, as you mentioned and summarized over these 3 episodes. You see that backstory that you mentioned. He wants to serve the people, right, of the Republic. Not just senators or the Jedi Council, but he says he wants to eradicate injustice. You can see him in talking to Mace Windu. He wants to bring justice for Master Katri, who was killed on Raxus, and wants a proper burial for her. And with the Senator Dagonet, he stands up to bullies. I mean, it's all the stuff that you want to see, but this is why I think it's so rich. It's like, how do you do it? How do you deal with these things? How do you eradicate injustice? How do you fight fire with fire? We talk about this. Well, it's coming up in Andor. And you and I've talked about this in previous episodes of Rebels and so on and so forth, and kind of this view of like, is the Empire, a lot of the people in there, they think they're doing the right thing, and the richness this brings, Aaron, is things like, for me, this path of good intentions is, again, issues that you and I have talked about. Here's the deepest issues. Is there ultimate right? Is there right and wrong? Or is it relativism? People argue both ways. You and I know this, right, buddy? I've even heard, people talking about Deidre Miro, right? The ISB agent, and how people are feeling sympathetic towards her, not because they want her and the Empire to succeed, but they feel like she's an underdog to ISB agent Blevin, right? And she kind of got over on him in episode 7. I guess that episode 8 aired today. But it's these kind of things where you're sitting there going back and saying, well, wait, should I be cheering for Deidre Miro? I mean, she actually wants to find Andor and have him arrested, killed, or both. So again, Dooku is this just brilliant character that leads to us asking these ultimate questions. Is there ultimate right and wrong? Is there relativism? How do you do this? And just to piggyback on something you mentioned, right when he's choking that senator, he pushes Qui-Gon back into the barn. Just get back, even more anger, force power, etc., used in a way that he shouldn't be doing it. But he's going against a scumbag, so you're like, right. I tell you, Aaron, something I was thinking about when he's dealing with this senator and the way he's treated the people. I'm like, sometimes bullies need to get hit square in the jaw, don't they?
Yeah.
So they need it, but how do you do that? Do you force choke, or do you just do the fair and square hit right in the jaw kind of thing? And some people would say, well, no, you don't physically hit anybody. You don't force choke them. Well, this guy's been force choking the whole city, in a way. He's been choking all these people by the way he's treating them. I don't know. It brings up these really big questions, and I know I've been blathering on, so forgive me, but that's how rich this is.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a very rich thing. And what I like about seeing this, and this is going right into the next episode choices, where we see him and Windu, on this mission to recover the body of Master, what's her name? Katri, Master Katri, who was killed in a quote unquote ambush. And, we see this journey to the dark side continue there because we begin to see the difference between the Jedi and Dooku, because we have the ultimate Jedi, Mace Windu, with him. And we have Mace Windu, who is a by the book, follow the instructions type of Jedi, does exactly what he's told, whatever his instructions are, that's what he's doing. Then you have Dooku, who is more emotional, more inquisitive, wants more information. And in this mission, there's literally Windu even says, "We've been sent to get the body and bring it home." And he goes, "Well, don't you want to know why they were ambushed? How they were ambushed? Don't you want to know who did it?" And then Windu's like, "That's not our job. Our job is to get the body and go home." But, things progress and we end up finding out that, again, it was a corrupt senator issue again.
Right.
Where the people had risen up and went and tried to ambush the senator and ended up killing the Jedi. And of course, a lot of bloodshed and a lot of things happen there. But we begin to see the focus of Dooku, where he is wanting justice for the people, and he knows the Republic is corrupt. He's seeing the corruption in the Republic, the corruption in the government. So he's becoming more of a, I almost want to say, a freedom fighter in his beliefs, because he's beginning to believe that maybe the Senate isn't the right thing, the Republic isn't the right thing for the galaxy, which is why he wants to serve the people rather than the Senate.
That's right.
And we begin to see that, and ultimately it comes to a head in the Sith Lord, when, of course, we see him enter the Jedi archives. He edits the archives, obviously removing Kamino. He actually encounters Qui-Gon Jinn, which we see Master Qui-Gon Jinn. And they actually have a nice discussion about the Sith Lord that Qui-Gon encountered on Tatooine. And then, of course, Yaddle. We get Yaddle back in this for a very short time. No pun intended. Because she's a short person too,
Anyway. Oh my God. Is that a Star Wars dad joke of the week without being a Star Wars dad joke of the week?
I should have saved that for the end, shouldn't I? But yeah, that was a bad dad pun. Anyhow.
Oh Lord, I'm sorry, listeners. I'm sorry.
We're starting early tonight, guys. We're starting early tonight. Get back, retrain my thoughts. Care best. So we see them have that discussion about how the council doesn't necessarily believe Qui-Gon, and then Yaddle's like, having to speak for the council. It's not that we just don't want to promote fear by letting the information get out. The typical government line.
Sure.
Then, of course, it cuts to the next scene where Dooku is just standing in front of this grand tree that we know is in the Garden of the Jedi at the Jedi Temple. And Yaddle walks up to him, and they begin to talk. And he's like, "I used to bring Qui-Gon here. He loved coming here." And then they start talking about how he was now one with the Force, and how the council was about to leave to go to Naboo for this funeral. So beginning of this episode starts with the beginning of episode 1, and this ends episode 1, which is fabulous. And it's nice to see that overlap. But we get to see Dooku leave. And of course, something is troubling Yaddle. So she follows Dooku. And we see Dooku leave, and he flies off. And he ends up going to that hangar where we see him meet Sidious.
Yeah.
Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
And of course, they begin to talk. And they're not master and apprentice yet. But they're talking about how, and Dooku's like, this has gone too far. Nobody was supposed to get hurt. Now Qui-Gon is dead. I've lost my apprentice. And Sidious is like, my apprentice is dead too. And like and they begin to discuss, and Dooku's beginning, you see Dooku struggling with the fact that things aren't going, the justice he was looking for the people is not going the way it's supposed to. And people he cared about are now getting hurt. And he's realizing he's in too far deep at this point to turn back. And that's when Yaddle steps in. And Dooku, and then Sidious is like, oh, I've been betrayed. And Dooku's like, no, I didn't betray you. And then Yaddle's like, whatever you've done, we'll deal with it later. But stand with me now and let's take out the Sith Lord. And we end up seeing Yaddle versus Dooku, which it makes me wonder if that fight really prepared him for the Dooku Yoda fight we see in episode 2.
That's right.
Because she was jumping around all over the place like Yoda did. Yeah. And there was, then of course they're fighting, and then of course, unfortunately, it ends with Dooku taking his rightful place at Sidious's side by killing Yaddle.
Yeah.
So not only do we get Yaddle back, we find out why we don't see her in episode 2 or episode 3, because Dooku killed her.
Right. Right.
So we see that journey for Dooku throughout this. And it's very insane how that journey occurred and how much of a role Qui-Gon Jinn played in that.
Yeah.
Because you see Qui-Gon literally from the first episode being the one that pulled him back from the dark side by getting the senator's son to go get to his father, essentially snapping Dooku out of his dark rage and force choke, to now we have Qui-Gon dead and he's turned to Sidious.
Yeah.
And killed the Jedi Master. So it makes you wonder would he have actually joined Sidious wholeheartedly if Qui-Gon would not have been killed by Maul?
Yeah. There's so much here. I mean, I've got hours of commentary. Like you said, what these little shorts have done is, goodness gracious, got me thinking about more stuff than Andor ever has. But I love Andor too. But let me just start. Where to start? Okay, first of all,
I know I threw out a lot there because there's so much there.
Oh gosh, man, there's so much. So that's why we're splitting this up.
Absolutely.
Between, Dooku and Ahsoka. So here to start, as I'm watching this, Yaddle talk to Dooku and say, "Hey, come over to my side here. I believe in you. We can deal with this, and let's try to take down Sidious." What I was thinking about, Aaron, is I can see, Dooku battling Sidious, and he's looking at Anakin saying, "Hey, we got to do this together. We can end this now." And you don't see the Jedi work together to defeat Sidious. And so I was thinking about that as Yaddle, Bryce Dallas Howard is the voice of Yaddle, is talking to him. to your point about Qui-Gon and his role, as time passes, I think generally people have been feeling like the prequels are aging better. People have nostalgia for them. Of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi here this summer really showed the love for Ewan McGregor. Hayden Christensen, Obi-Wan, a legacy character. And and I guess when I think about Qui-Gon, and him, and as time passes, just like, again, it's meeting him in the prequels, he's becoming this character where, and I put it in the notes as a talking point, is he really, I don't, gosh, like I hear a lot of Star Wars fans say this, Aaron, maybe one of the ultimate Jedi, Qui-Gon, is he between Windu and Dooku? He's not going to go as far afield as Dooku, but he's not going to be so constrained like Master Windu is, So all these thoughts are in my mind. And then I guess, like I said, to your point, with him being killed, is that enough? There's a lot, but just one more nail in the coffin to push him over towards, Sidious. And then even more thoughts on this. When you think about it, Aaron, people saw episode 2. We see the Clone Wars begin at the end. Then in 2005, episode 3 comes to the big screen. And by the end of that, we're like, wait, he's helping the Emperor, defeat Mace Windu, and he's thrown out the window, and he's kneeling, and he's killing kids. He's kneeling in front of Sidious, and prior to that, he's killing kids in the Jedi Temple. And Star Wars fans are like, wait, how did you get there? And then over the course of all those seasons of the Clone Wars, you see all the stuff that had happened to Anakin, right? And the storytelling that Lucas and Filoni have, like you said, with animation and time, and then it pieces together. You're like, I can see that more now. Everything, how he was lied to, how they treated his apprentice, the Jedi Council, right? How they treated Ahsoka, everything that he dealt with being a Jedi. It starts to fill that in. So the Clone Wars helps me understand how he goes from episode 2 Anakin to episode 3 Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
And here, with the backstory, you can see how Dooku went from being a Jedi Master to leaving the Jedi Order and joining Sidious.
Absolutely. And one there's one line or one question he asks in the second episode of Choices of Dooku after they've recovered the body and they're walking to the ship. Dooku asks Windu, do you think the Jedi will truly be able to keep the peace if they continue to take everything the Senate says as law? And Windu replies, luckily, we are guided by our counsel and not by politics or ego. And they turn, and then he turns and walks on board the ship and leaves Dooku just standing there. And that in and of itself, I'm going to call it what it feels like to me. That's an oxymoron right there. That is the most egotistical statement he could have made at that point. The Jedi are very much driven by the politics of the council.
Yeah.
And how it measures in. And there is ego in the Jedi. Whether they're supposed to be or not, they have some egos, some pretty big egos in the council, in the Jedi that are there. So that right there, that whole interaction, and especially that question by Dooku, you can already see where his separatist thoughts are going. That this not necessarily the Republic being the best thing for the people at that point.
Well, and let me piggyback on what you said when that line, when, like you said, when Dooku asked that question of Mace Windu, and he says, luckily we're not, influenced by politics, but we see throughout episode 2 that falls apart by the end because they're pulled in as generals in the Clone Wars, and you see Mace Windu, so brilliantly played by Samuel L. Jackson, talking about their struggles in dealing with the Senate and their egos. Sidious talks about that, and hubris and how it was their downfall. And so not only is it an egotistical statement, and then at the same time, Mace Windu has to eat crow because they are pulled into politics versus staying above it, and their egos get in the way. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely, that also brings in what how you also have to then reflect on how the people view the Jedi, and that's shown in these episodes as well. As I believe in one, I can't remember which episode it is. It says it's either the first or the second, where they state that the Jedi are basically the lapdogs of the Republic Senate.
yeah, that was in the one on Raxus where the guy, choices where it's kind of the military behind it trying to control that senator since he was being controlled, and he says that. Yeah, that was huge, that statement.
That they are the lapdogs of the Senate, and they are simply there to keep the wealthy powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's very anti Dooku. And what he is coming to believe in the time here, and is just so crazy to see. That's not these stories play out, and to see this, this was a journey that we're getting to see that honestly I didn't think we'd ever get to see, and I honestly never thought I wanted to see, because Dooku was just Dooku was Dooku. He was just another bad guy, Sith Lord. He was, a minor Sith Lord at that, because he was in one episode. He was in episode 2, and then he lost his head at the beginning of episode 3. So it was even seeing all the stories with him during the Clone Wars. It really wasn't, his backstory was really nothing I ever really cared about.
Yeah,
till I saw it.
Yeah, yeah. I do think that Kevin Scott's audio drama, Dooku Jedi Lost, started to pique my interest in it. And then Claudia Gray's novel, Master and Apprentice. But I'm in agreement with you a bit, not to this level. Seeing these episodes and getting this backstory is absolutely got me pumped up, and not just learning more about a character in Star Wars, because I love Star Wars, so much. But Dan Z talks about this a lot, how fiction allows us to discuss issues that we might not normally discuss face to face or in groups because they're so heated. You and I have talked before, and me as a clinical psychologist, I've worked with thousands of people over 30 years, and they're like, yes, you don't talk about, religion or politics. And, and it seems like it's whether it's with their family, if it's friends, if it's anybody. And of course, I've always said to you, and I said to everybody in my office, why can't we? We have a brain, now we don't have as much prefrontal cortex as I would like, which can allow us to have these kinds of conversations. But here's Dave Filoni, and you've said it, Aaron, who's just a masterful storyteller, getting you to think about, important issues. We start off episode 1, which airs in 1999, taxation and trade routes and all that. And everyone's like, oh, boring. Well, it's life. Lucas was influenced by the Vietnam War, and look, Dave Filoni's living in America right now where we have incredible political confusion, political distrust, and he's commenting on this, and I would even say this, make my little comment, like you said, Aaron, when Dooku asks Mace Windu, we're going to keep are the Jedi, are we going to keep believing everything that the Senate says as law? Do we take it as law? And I'd make the same argument here in our country. If you're a person of faith, can we get up above the politics and Democrats and Republicans and the Jedi are spiritual people, and you and I are spiritual people, and can we get above this? Here's me quoting Dooku and say, I'm going to get above, what I see on the political landscape and look to a higher power who has a loving, caring approach versus the political unrest between our parties. And it's in other countries too. Can you get above it? And here's Dave Filoni, who wrote this, right, saying, can you get up above, him and Charles Murray wrote this, can you get up above this kind of stuff? And I really heard that when Dooku asked Mace Windu that question, because I'd like to see a lot more of us Americans do that.
Yes. Well said, my friend. Well said. Oh.
That's why you and I are pumped up tonight, man. I mean, there's so much in this.
There is. So what we're going to do real quick is take a quick break, and then we will be right back to wrap up our discussions and go into the psychology corner. Hang with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here, and we are continuing our discussion of the Dooku episodes of Tales of the Jedi. And we've been having a fabulous discussion so far. And I want to focus a little bit here as we wrap up on the end of these episodes, the final episode, the Sith Lord, where we actually get to see him with Dooku, or Sidious with Dooku, and we finally see the fall happen. And it's not necessarily, I mean, the fall's been, he's been on a journey towards this fall, but this is the moment where it all happens, where he falls to the dark side, and his what is that line from Return of the Jedi? Strike him down with all your hate, and your journey to the dark side will be complete. And we see that in this as Dooku battles Yaddle, and the coldness of how during the fight when Yaddle is down on the tracks of the door, and Dooku doesn't even hesitate. He uses the Force to press the button to slam the door down. I thought when that happened, I'm not going to lie, David, when I audibly gasped when that door slammed down on Yaddle, thinking that is how she dies. Oh Lord. Well, and I was then, of course, you hear the music, and all of a sudden you see the door rising, and she's using the Force to hold it back, and she's fine. And she kind of falls out, and that's when Dooku walks up and strikes her down with the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And just the coldness and the utter just evilness of it is just crazy.
Well, I would equate this to, and spoiler alert, but this is over a year out, The Rising Storm by Kevin Scott, in the High Republic, right? A publishing initiative. What Kevin Scott does to us Star Wars fans, to our hearts, when it comes to Jedi Master Loden Greatstorm,
Yes.
Oh my gosh, like, oh wait, he's okay. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, he's not. Oh, and then, you even see Kristen Baver on This Week in Star Wars, always tease, that Kevin Scott's going to break her heart again, but that's what this felt like. It's like, oh my gosh, Yaddle's kind of, battling out of it. And the music's triumphant, and you got the sunlight from behind. And then only to have Dooku do exactly what you said. His transformation to the dark side is complete. Great catch on your part, and referencing Return of the Jedi there. And that Filoni was thinking about that when he was writing all this. But so well done. I love that they brought Yaddle in. And just how it was done and emotional. In fact, like I said, I'd watched it earlier today, watched it tonight. My daughter was watching it. And when that door came down, like you said, Aaron, my daughter's like, oh, she's just like, oh my, she couldn't believe it. And that whole Works district, they call it the Works, I think the Works district on Coruscant. Yeah, I'm not going there. That's some bad stuff going down over there.
Yep, some bad juju there.
So there's some bad juju in that part of Coruscant, man. We saw some episodes with Yoda even kind of being over there and stuff. It's, oh man, the Works is, don't go there. Don't go to that part of Coruscant.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, the one thing the last thing I want to touch on before we start closing out here is Kevin freaking Kiner.
I knew it. I knew you have to. We have to talk him.
You've known me long enough, David.
Oh yeah.
I love Kevin Kiner. His scores throughout Rebels, throughout the Clone Wars, to me are second to none, or are second only to John Williams.
Yeah.
And he did it again. This man has not lost anything having time off from Star Wars. It was perfect. It was emotional. It was engaging. It carried so much weight. I mean, I can't help but go back to what David Collins says about the music of Star Wars. It literally is the breath of Star Wars. It just if you muted all the audio except the soundtrack, no words, no sound effects, just the audio, it could still tell you the full story, just as if you were hearing every word being spoken.
Yeah.
And Kevin Kiner's music in these episodes does the same thing. And I will say this, if they do not release the soundtracks to these, it is a grave injustice.
We'll have to get Dooku on it to right this injustice.
Absolutely. Please make it happen, Dave Filoni for president.
Well, let me piggyback. Listen to our listeners. Aaron has been so helpful in getting me. I've always loved the music of Star Wars. I'm not an aficionado, but Kiner and his work and Aaron's commentary through Rebels when we did that together, and Clone Wars, season 7, and just all his stuff is so incredible. The score he did at the end there when Ahsoka leaves the Jedi, I'm just in tears, crying because of the power of the music. Now, the thing I was going to mention, Aaron, is just when Dooku is falling, the process over these episodes, you can hear that Kiner took, and played off of what Williams did in episode 3, like when you see Anakin staring from the Jedi Temple across to where Padme lives, and Padme staring back at the Jedi Temple, yes. And that powerful music and the eeriness, and he tweaked that and brought that in for Dooku. And I just love it because, again, you and I talked about it just a little bit ago about seeing in the Clone Wars how Anakin turns to the dark side. Here, seeing Dooku fully turning, and just the music just locks it all together and supports it beautifully and eerily, and just so well done.
Oh, very much well done. And going, I got to take a step back because I have the episodes playing in the background here where I can see them while we're talking. And I mentioned earlier how the relationship to Return of the Jedi in that final fight, with his journey to the dark side being complete by striking Yaddle down. But there's another similarity to Return of the Jedi, which is in the middle of the fight, Yaddle hides and she's trying to talk him down. Just like Luke does to Vader, I know there's good in you. As Vader's walking around hunting for him, you have that same thing going on with Yaddle. She's telling him, I believed what Qui-Gon said. That's why I left the council. So we find out not only is she resigned from the council, she believed everything Qui-Gon said, and still it wasn't enough to save her from Dooku.
Yeah.
And save Dooku from Sidious.
Yeah.
Because I wholeheartedly believe Yaddle would have laid everything, you could see it in this fight, would have laid everything down to save Dooku from Sidious.
Yeah. Oh man, another great analysis there, buddy. Oh.
So, all right. Anything else you want to discuss before we start wrapping things up, my friend?
No, man. I just, again, we're going to be coming back to this, and Star Wars fans will be. So, no, we'll move on to final grades, and we can do the psychology corner. But I'm gonna be rewatching these episodes quite a bit.
Absolutely. So, final thoughts. Let's jump into those to wrap things up. Since you kicked us up with initial, I'll kick us off with our final reactions. This was just awesome. Yeah. The only complaint, there's only one complaint I have. I wish they were long. Okay, two complaints. I wish they were longer, and I wish there were more.
Right.
That's the only complaint I have, because other than that, this is gold. This is some of the best. Okay, I'm going to say it. This is the best Star Wars I've seen since Rebels ended.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I take that back, because we got season 7 of Clone Wars. This is the best best Star Wars I've seen since they gave us the Siege of Mandalore arc. Which was just incredible in and of itself. But this is it. This is the best, and I'll leave it at that.
What I was going to do is, forgive me for interrupting.
You're fine.
But I just rewatched the Siege of Mandalore, and just again, Filoni and Lucas and the storytelling and Kiner's music. Yes, do I enjoy these 6 episodes more than the sequel trilogy? Yes. Do I enjoy these more than Andor so far? Yes. I love Andor, but I love this more. Let's see how Andor plays out this year and next year. Maybe I change my tune, but I'm not sure. Obi-Wan, a Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. This is right there. Dave Filoni for president, like we said. So, I'm just flowing into my final reactions right off of Aaron there. And I would just say this, that, the character of Dooku is so rich, and Filoni has shown that. And it brings up so many issues on so many levels. You heard me say it. I've held back so much of what I've wanted to say on an even deeper level. But just only have so much time. Aaron and I have so much to say about 3 short episodes. They're not even the 22-minute typical Clone Wars episodes. But I'll tell you, Filoni and Murray, I would definitely want to mention Charles Murray, who we know he wrote, and I remember seeing him on the extras and the Clone Wars DVDs, seeing him in the writer's room there with Filoni, with Lucas. And now they have him even directing an episode. So if Filoni and Murray, they really tapped into that richness of Dooku. And they brought us 3 absolutely captivating episodes. I could not stop watching. I'm watching each one, and then it's the next one, The Sith Lord. I'm like, oh my gosh, click, hit play. And like I mentioned, I absolutely think that Star Wars fans are going to be talking and processing all these issues for a really long time. And this is the richness. This is why we're talking about Star Wars 45 years later. It's because of, we're talking about it because of the mythology involved in good versus evil and these questions. Again, Andor's a kind of heist. We'll see the rest of it. How does this guy go from being, kind of not wanting to help anybody to be part of a bigger cause? But I don't know. Maybe we're talking about Andor in the years to come. I hope so. I love the character, but it's the deepest issue beyond Luke, beyond Sidious, beyond Han and Luke and Leia, all them. It's the mythology, right? I remember George Lucas being interviewed on the red carpet in 2015 for the world premiere of The Force Awakens, the start of the sequel. And I remember the woman asking him, why are we still talking about Star Wars, 40 some years later? Now it's 45 years. And George Lucas, just to paraphrase, he says, well, there's a lot of science fiction out there with spaceships and people shooting, laser guns and all that. But those things don't have the mythology. And that's what we could really see. And that's what Dave Filoni learned at the foot of the master, and what Dave Filoni and Charles Murray, who again was sitting in those meetings with George Lucas, here's what they've put on the screen, and there's such a richness, and that's why we'll be processing this for such a longer period of time than TV shows, movies, etc., that don't have this deep mythology.
Exactly right. You're absolutely exactly right. And and I want to jump off something you said, because I'm enjoying Andor. I think Andor's been absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible storytelling. But today the episode, today was episode 8 of Andor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was 57 minutes of Andor is how long that episode was today. Whereas these 3 episodes of talking about Dooku, these 3 episodes totaled 47 minutes.
Yeah.
And I feel there was more crammed in to these 47 minutes than we have gotten in all 8 episodes of Andor.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah,
that's not slacking Andor, because I like I said, I'm thoroughly enjoying Andor. I think it's absolutely incredible. But it shows you the difference in storytelling. Dave Filoni has a skill unmatched by anybody at Lucasfilm, anybody at Disney, anybody at Marvel, anybody. I would say he's got a skill unmatched by anybody anywhere, where he can take 17 minutes, even 22 minutes when it was doing Clone Wars and Rebels. But he can take those minutes and provide so much depth, so many layers, that it is mind-blowing. And and you can go back and you can rewatch and watch and watch to this day, even Rebels, even Clone Wars. You can go back and rewatch these episodes, just like you'll be able to with these episodes here, and you will see something new every time you watch it, because there's so much depth and there's so much detail, and there's so much crammed into that little space
Yeah.
that you'll never completely 100% unpack it.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, is a gift, which is why Dave Filoni for president.
That's right. Well, and we've talked about 3 short episodes of Dooku. We haven't talked about the other, the depth of the episodes of Ahsoka.
Yeah,
And
we may have to split that into 2 episodes, I'm thinking, too. Seeing how we've gone on Dooku for this long, when we get in those Ahsoka ones, you talk about the emotional impact of it.
Oh, I was crying.
Oh, my gosh.
And
I
I freely admit it. Oh my gosh, Dave Filoni, I lost 5 pounds in water weight in tears. So, but we'll get to that. Okay, so
Dave Filoni for president and the new Dave Filoni diet plan.
Oh, it works.
Coming to Disney Plus soon. Grades, my friend. Let's talk about grades. We grade every episode or everything we review, just like if you were getting a grade in school: A, B, C, D, and or F. Take it away, David. How would you grade these 3 episodes of Tales of the Jedi about Dooku?
Oh, well, usually I'm sitting there saying, well, there's these episodes of Rebels and Clone Wars, and I'm waiting for, more episodes to come out, and I'm sure there's going to be an A+. These things are A minus, B plus, B, all that. This is A++, and just, more pluses, and it's a no-brainer. There you go. A with a whole bunch of pluses after it.
I have to agree with you, my friend. A+ all the way. Like I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. These episodes proved the superiority of Star Wars animation over Star Wars live action, and it's just hands down.
Yeah.
And trust me, I've loved the live action stuff. Don't get me wrong. I've loved Mandalorian. I liked Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, Andor. I'm enjoying it all.
Yeah.
But there's just something special about the animation that is just so much more connecting.
Agreed, buddy. It didn't start that way in 2008. It did not start that way in 2008. That's when the Clone Wars movie came out. But boy, have they! It's all new level. It's a whole new level.
I mean, there's always growing pains when you get into a new medium. I mean, flat out. I'm not going to. That's undeniable. When they first started animated Star Wars with the Clone Wars, the Clone Wars movie, and even the first season of the actual TV show Clone Wars, it had its detractors.
Yep.
I mean, Ahsoka calling Anakin Sky Guy, Anakin calling her Snips. I mean, those were type of things that people absolutely hated. Now they can't live without it. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, I think of back to Celebration that they just had, where they had had Hayden Christensen on stage with, and there's Ashley Eckstein there interviewing him. And as soon as he sits down, she looks at him. She's like, "Hi there, Sky Guy." And the place lost it. That's the type of growth that it's had time. He says, was it 2008 when it came out?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking 14 years ago.
Yeah.
When it came out. So we've had 14 years of growth in the animation medium, whereas this live action, this is all new in the last 3 years?
It really is. 2019.
Yeah. So I mean, we got a long way to grow. But I mean, technically we've been doing live action Star Wars since 1977.
True.
So, it's the TV side of it is new, but I don't know. There's just something about the animation, and I'm just going to say it's Dave Filoni for president and Kevin Kiner. So, and leave it at that. So let us know what you think, people. We would love to know what y'all think about it. You can, of course, give us your thoughts on Twitter or on Instagram. Of course, Twitter, SW Reactions Pod, or Instagram, SW Reactions. Let us know what you think, how you would grade these episodes. And of course, if you want to share your feedback for the upcoming Ahsoka review, give us your feedback there as well. We'd love to hear from it or hear about it. So let us know. David, my friend, it's Psychology Corner. I got to get a ditty for that.
Yeah.
I got to get a little intro ditty for Psychology Corner.
I know. Dan
it's
has
time for David's Psychology Corner.
Like Dan has, what does he have? What's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week? And he has his little thing, and yeah, we'll come up with something.
David pick your brain in his Psychology Corner.
Well, listen, hey, if any of our listeners have an idea, Rural Farm Boy, I don't know, some other people, Cameron Ramos, any of those guys, I don't know. If they have one, send it to us. But yes, I have a Psychology Corner. It's slowly but surely building up to through a number. I have a lot of Psychology Corners planned out, which I feel good about, versus I don't want to just hit something piecemeal. So again, in summary, in the last two podcast episodes that Aaron and I have done on Star Wars Reactions, I've given our listeners some statistics on the increases in depression and anxiety in children, adolescents, and adults from before to after the COVID pandemic. So I wanted to lay that out to show, kind of some hard statistics behind it. We all know that people are more stressed, people are more depressed, more anxious. And of course, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, over the last several years, we don't have enough behavioral health help. We need more psychiatrists, more psychologists, licensed clinical social workers, licensed mental health counselors. So if you're thinking about going into it, please do it. We need you in all 50 states. So in today's episode of my Psychology Corner, I want to go over one of the two main aspects of CBT, that's cognitive behavioral therapy, developed by Dr. Aaron Beck, that I mentioned in our last episode. I mentioned CBT, I mentioned ACT, but there's two main components, treatment components within CBT. One is helping people challenge irrational or false thoughts. The other part is to help wait, Aaron, can we back up and cut that part out? I just messed it up. Okay. I don't know, where are we mark wise? 116 here, 115. Okay. Can I start over? Can I stop and just start?
Just stop and just start over.
I read it wrong. Okay.
Just go silent for 5 seconds and start over.
Sorry. So in today's episode, I'm going to go over one of the two main aspects of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that I mentioned in our last episode. That one aspect is the challenging of irrational or false thoughts. And we do that to help people decrease depression and anxiety. Okay. I'll go over that second aspect, which is exposure and response prevention. I'll do that in a future episode. But right now, you might be asking, what are some examples of irrational or false thoughts? Okay. There are 10 main types of irrational thoughts. Now, our listeners out there, Aaron, might have heard people heard these things called cognitive distortions. I very much use that in my therapy sessions. I point out cognitive distortions to my clients. Aaron Beck famously called cognitive distortions or irrational thoughts, he called them stinking thinking. And so our listeners, you can use any of those to describe what we're trying to get at. But what I'm trying to do here in tonight's psychology corner is to help people understand these 10 main types. I'm going to list them off, and then what I'm going to do is in our next episode, I'll go over two of the cognitive distortions and how to specifically deal with them. But again, in terms of time and to really give proper time to explain how to address these different types of stinking thinking, I'll do that in some future episodes here. But let me go through the 10, all right? And people can write them down or listen again or whatever, but I'll go through these in more detail, two at a time. But here's the 10. Number one, all or nothing thinking. Okay, that is one cognitive distortion. Another one is overgeneralization. Again, I'll give more detail on those in time. A mental filter. This is the tendency to filter out positive things that have happened during the day. Okay. Disqualifying the positive. This is another way that people have stinking thinking, jumping to conclusions. All of us have done that before. Magnification and minimization. All right. Again, I'll give more detail on that, give proper time to it. Emotional reasoning. We don't want people to reason with their emotions. Again, we'll go over that in more detail. Shoulding. Let me just stop here for a second, Aaron. And I've heard people say, I can't take credit for this. I've heard other people say it. They'll tell their friends and family members, etc., don't should on yourself. And I love that saying. And we'll talk more about that. But as humans, unfortunately, we can do the shoulda, woulda, coulda. We can should ourselves to death. All right, we don't want to do that. The ninth one is labeling and mislabeling. And the 10th one is personalization and blame. Now, again, just in the service of time, we've already spent a lot of time talking about these 3 episodes of Dooku. I just wanted to get those out. Next episode that Aaron and I record, I'll go over 2 of the cognitive distortions. I'll go over all or nothing thinking and overgeneralization. Okay, the first 2 on the list. And I will take time and explain to people how to deal with each of those. Okay. And there's the psychology corner. And now it's time. I shouldn't say it. Do we have a Star Wars dad joke of the week?
We will.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But before we do, let's wrap things up. If somebody has questions about the psychology corner or wants to talk Star Wars with you, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, 2 places, Aaron. They can go to Twitter. My Twitter handle is at David_Modders, Modders. I was just thinking, is the Twitter handle Jedi Psych and then at David_Modders? Are they both my Jedi, or are they both my handle? I don't know. But again, it's at David_Modders, Modders. And the other one is people can go to Instagram. That's just simply David Modders.
Very good. Very good. And of course, if you want to talk Star Wars with me, best place to do that is Twitter at TA. I almost gave the show account. It's at TA Harris 121079 is my personal one. It's a great place to hit me up and talk Star Wars or anything in general. So, and yes, David, we do have a Star Wars dad joke of the week. And, I figured it was appropriate, since we were talking Dooku, to have a Dooku joke.
Nice.
So, this week's dad joke of the week is, what are Count Dooku's favorite movies?
I don't know the answer to this. What are Count Dooku's favorite movies?
Documentaries.
Oh, my.
Documentaries.
That is a true Star Wars dad joke. It's horrible. Last week's with Grievous, that was actually a good joke. This is back to a true dad joke of the week.
Groaner.
That is a groaner. Oh my gosh.
But if you'd have watched the documentaries about the High Republic, he would have learned not to trust the dark side.
Oh my gosh.
So obviously he did not learn from the past.
He did not.
Because he's doomed to repeat it. Not release, but we're not. David, buddy.
Oh,
this has been a blast as always.
It has been. I hope our listeners enjoyed it. I know we went a little long here, but there was so much to cover. And I think even I'm talking fast tonight. I'm so excited about everything we covered tonight.
Absolutely. And I probably can guarantee you our Ahsoka one will go longer. So, but that will be coming out soon. Trust us. We'll let you know when it's coming. But David, it's been a blast. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. Be safe. Take care. Be kind to somebody. Make a difference. Smile at people. You'll be surprised how much smiling will change somebody's day. So smile, have fun, be nice, be kind. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.